You know, that one sentence, said to a young engineering student, pretty much sets the stage for our entire story. It's about a guy who heard, "you can't," and then decided to build an entire car industry from scratch, almost just to prove that professor wrong.
As a venture partner, I see a lot of pitches. And I can tell you, the most dangerous ones are always those built on what I call a Sand Castle Moat. So think of this as a case study, a really important one, on that exact risk. We'll be using the incredible rise and tragic fall of a Brazilian auto visionary to see why.
So we're putting three very different companies under the microscope, all facing the same wild Brazilian market. You've got Gurgel, the hometown hero. You've got Fiat, the master of scale. And then there's Toyota, the global giant of efficiency. Each one built a different kind of competitive moat. Let's find out which ones were built to last.
Okay, let's start with our main character, João Gurgel. You have to understand, he wasn't just trying to build cars. He was trying to build a symbol of industrial independence for Brazil. It was this dream of a car that was 100% Brazilian, for Brazilians.
Think about it. With only 50 grand, Gurgel starts his company. Now, he did this inside a very protected Brazilian market where foreign imports were basically banned. This created a kind of bubble, a space where a smaller, homegrown player could actually, maybe, take on the big guys like Volkswagen who were already there.
And this guy wasn't just a dreamer, he was a genuine innovator. He patented something called Plastile, this cool composite of fiberglass and steel that was perfect for Brazil's humid, rust-prone climate. He launched the first ever electric vehicle in Latin America. And then in '88, he finally did it, the BR800, a car built with 100% Brazilian parts and know-how. Just let that number sink in for a second. 1974, a working electric car was developed in Brazil almost 50 years ago. I mean, this wasn't some hobby project in a garage. This was a serious piece of engineering, way ahead of its time, all sparked by the oil crisis in the '70s. The foresight was absolutely there.
So you gotta ask, how was the BR800 actually able to compete? Well, it wasn't just its cool little engine. The secret sauce was a massive tax break from the government. Gurgel paid a tiny 5% industrial tax, while his competition was paying over 25%. Bam! That gave him a 30% price advantage right off the bat. That was his moat.
And this is where our sandcastle starts to get washed away by the tide. See, a competitive edge that's handed to you by the government can be taken away just as fast. The political winds in Brazil were changing, and Gurgel was standing right on the shoreline.
And just look at how suddenly it all happened. Before 1990, Gurgel was safe in his protected bubble. But after 1990, a new president, Fernando Collor, just opened the floodgates. Fiat immediately launched its Uno Mille at a really similar price. And get this, the imported Russian Lada Niva was suddenly cheaper than Gurgel's SUV, even with a huge 85% import tax on it. It was a brutal 1-2 punch. First, the government leveled the tax rates, which completely erased Gurgel's price advantage with the stroke of a pen. Second, they opened the borders to imports. Gurgel's entire business model, which was built on those two government protections, became worthless, literally overnight. He went back to the government, begged for an emergency loan to try to adapt, to retool his factories just to survive, and they said no. The same government that had helped build his dream now refused to save it. The state gives, and the state takes away. Gurgel Motors just fell apart.
But hold on, because here's the most important lesson. While Gurgel's sandcastle was being washed away, Fiat and Toyota were right there on the same beach, facing the same waves. They were in the exact same market, dealing with the exact same policy shock. And yet they survived. In fact, they thrived. So how'd they do it? What were their moats made of?
Okay, first, Fiat. Their moat wasn't some temporary tax break. It was a deep, decades-long partnership with the Brazilian government, plus just massive, mind-boggling scale. Their plant in Betim is the biggest in the entire global Stellantis empire. It's like its own city, churning out a brand new car every single minute. That is not a sandcastle. That's a fortress made of steel and concrete, built to handle any storm.
And then you've got Toyota. They've been in Brazil since 1958. They were playing the long game from day one. Their advantage wasn't about getting favors from the government, it was about something internal, something they brought with them from Japan.
This right here is the key difference. Toyota's moat is inside the company. This is the Toyota production system. This whole culture of just being relentless about efficiency and quality. A system like that doesn't care who the president is. It works in any political weather. They turn disasters into advantages and make these long-term bets that pay off decades down the line. Their moat isn't policy, it's a philosophy.
So when you lay it all out like this, the whole picture becomes crystal clear. Gurgel's advantage was policy. It was transactional. It was temporary. And the result? Collapse. Fiat's advantage was scale and a deep state partnership, totally integrated. The result? Market leader. And Toyota's? Operational excellence, adaptive, resilient. The result? A global survivor.
So let's bring this all home. What's the big takeaway for anyone looking to invest, especially in an emerging market? It really all boils down to one simple question. Is the company's advantage built on solid rock, or is it built on sand? This is the idea I really want you to remember. A Sand Castle Moat. It can look really strong, it can look impressive for a while, but it's built on the shifting sands of government policy. And when the political tide changes, and it always does, that moat is gone in an instant.
A durable moat, a fortress built on rock, is totally different. It's made of things a government can't just erase with a new law. Things like real proprietary technology. Ironically, like Gurgel's own Plastile patent, which was one part of his business that was truly solid. Or unmatched operational excellence, a culture of efficiency that's baked into the company's DNA, like Toyota. Or just pure massive scale, like Fiat. The key is that the advantage has to be internal to the company, not a single point of failure that depends on who's in power.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. Look at your own portfolio, your own investments. Every single company you've put money into has some kind of competitive advantage, some kind of moat. The lesson from Zhao Gurgel's brilliant, tragic story is that you have to ask yourself, is that moat built on the solid rock of internal strength or on the shifting sands of political favor?